Hey, good to see you. Hey, it's Mr. Pink Shirt Guy. Hey guys, it's Mr. Pink Shirt Guy. Hey guys, Mr. Pink Shirt Guy. Too many guys. It's like a sausage fest up in here. Anyway, a few weeks ago I made a big batch of caramelized onions. And normally I use Thomas Keller's recipe from his Bouchon cookbook, affiliate link below. But it takes 4 hours, and despite my, dogmatic and illiberal belief that he's the only right one, I researched other recipes. But actually, real quick, before we jump into all this great knowledge, I'd love to know, what do you use caramelized onions for? Like, what kind of recipes do you put them in? How do you prepare them? Drop your answers in the questions below. Nope. Drop your answers in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, back to the normally scheduled programming. All right, so the recipes that I found varied widely. Some said you could have caramelized onions done in 20 minutes flat, while others said you needed at least an hour, if not more. I even found another recipe from my fearless leader, Thomas Keller, that said you could make caramelized onions in 45 minutes. What? Keller, hey, one calling for 4 hours and the other calling for 45 minutes? What gives, buddy? How could this be? Tommy K, why have you forsaken me? That'd be like if you told me, that there was inconsistencies in the Bible or something. Or it'd be like if they found out that, Jesus was buried in the next tomb over and what they thought was an empty tomb was really just the wrong one. Needless to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway, I was beside myself. And instead of thinking, I wonder if there's a good reason to have different cooking times for different applications, I do what I always do when I read something I don't like. I immediately cancel the author, head to Twitter, and demand everybody else cancel them too. It was only afterward, with my entire worldview shaken, that I decided to do some critical thinking and experimentation. For this experiment, I cooked up I'll just have the 3 ready. Okay, so for this experiment, I cooked up is that 3? Yeah, I got it right, okay. All right, for this experiment, I cooked up 3 pounds of onions 3 different ways. I didn't even have to, I could leave it up there, okay. For this experiment, I cooked up 3 pounds of onions 3 different ways. It's like a giant hashtag. It's like a double hashtag. Or like I don't know what you'd call that. Normally it's 1 whole and now there's 4. It's like a quadruple tag, a quadrash tag. I cook 1 pound for 30 minutes. I cook another pound of onions for 60 minutes. And then I cook a 3rd pound of onions for 4 hours. Now, to limit my variables, I used the same pan for each batch. I made sure all the onions were sliced the exact same thickness at 1/8 inch thickness using a V-slicer mandolin. And then I even used the same butter to onions ratio of about 1 to 10. And I did about 440-ish grams of onions to 44 grams of butter. And to even limit my per onion variability, I sliced up all the onions, put them in a giant bowl, mixed them all together, and then I smelled. To recap, each batch of mixed onions was about 440 grams of onions and about 44, grams of butter. Salted Irish butter. Oh, look at that little salty Irish butter here. What top of the morning to you? The onions were all at room temperature, about 70 degrees here in my home, and all the butter came directly from the fridge right before use. I heated each batch on high just until I heard a little tiny bit of a sizzle, just to take the cold off the pan, and then I reduced the heat down to whatever my temperature was going to be for that experimental batch. For the 20-minute batch, I used high heat on my medium burner. For the 60-minute batch, I used high heat on my small burner, and then for the 4-hour batch, I just breathed on it. Now, I ended up using low heat on my small burner. For each batch, I also recorded the elapsed time and the amount of water each time I deglazed the pan. And for each batch, I stirred frequently enough so that the onions wouldn't burn. Now, I really wanted to go into this and prove that the 20-minute recipe and the 60-minute recipes were total bunk, and that Thomas Keller's 4-hour method was the one and only. Now, let's move on to the results to see if I was right, as always. I went into this experiment thinking that all caramelized onion recipes were basically like Highlander. There can be only one. I'm Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. That's not Scottish. Am I the only one that likes the Highlander TV show far better than the movies? Come on, Adrian Paul, whatever his name was. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below because, I'm bored and I kind of want to start a flame war, which in this case would be less flame and more decapitation and lightning. Bring on the quickening! Anyway. High level, I would still call each of these batches caramelized onions, but they differed so greatly in terms of taste and texture. So first, the 20-minute batch. Now, I know I've kind of used the term 20 and 30-minute batch interchangeably so far, and that's because I started out wanting to do a 20-minute batch, but I couldn't get enough heat into the pan to do it in 20 minutes. I also didn't want to change the heat of the pan midway through the experiment, so I just turned it on high on my medium-sized burner, and that still ended up taking 30 minutes. I didn't want to switch pans too between batches because I wanted to keep things consistent to limit any sort of extraneous variables. Anyway, so henceforth, anytime I say 20 or 30-minute batch, I mean 30-minute batch. Speaking of which, the 30-minute batch was okay. There was some sweetness, but also a noticeable kind of browned, sauteed flavor, which in this case, I don't think is completely unwelcome, but in caramelized onions, I want to taste just the sweetness. I don't want any bitterness coming through. There was also a very strong kind of stringy texture to it too. You had to bite down and actually chew in order to break down the onions even further to be able to swallow. It wasn't quite like a fried onion crunch, but I still had to chew. And you know me, I'm lazy. I don't want to chew anything. Chew on this. Now, if you're in a bind, maybe a time crunch or something, this recipe will work. I'd still call them caramelized onions, but I wouldn't serve them to guests. So final verdict, the 30-minute version, 2 thumbs down. Now the 60-minute version was noticeably sweeter and softer. I still needed to deglaze the pan, but a lot less often than I did for the 30-minute batch. Bottom line, I would probably serve these to guests, but I'd be preoccupied the entire dinner because deep down inside, I knew I could have done better. Now, the 4-hour batch was incredible, as usual. There was melt in your mouth, oniony sweetness. It was awesome. And the nice thing about this recipe is that it's closer to kind of a set it and forget it model where you can just turn it on and walk away, which is pretty much what I did because my wife and I were having a date night listening to live jazz streaming from Small's Jazz Club, which you can do every day for free at 4:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Boop. Bottom line, the 4-hour batch was absolutely my favorite, which means that I was right all along. You know, when I use caramelized onions, I want them to be soft. I want them to be sweet. I want them to kind of fall into whatever else I'm putting them in. Like if I'm making a French onion soup, I don't want to have to chew stringy onions while I'm slurping at the same time. Or my French onion dip. Or my onion jam to accompany a cheese plate. Or if I'm just topping a steak with a little thyme and some extra butter, I'm gonna go the full 4 hours. I get that that's a lot of time, but here's the deal. Just make it infrequently in giant batches. That way you can just make it once, you can freeze it because they freeze real well. They'll keep in the fridge for a few weeks. And plus side, your apartment won't end up smelling like an indoor Russian circus. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys got something out of this. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, and I'm gonna go finish this Bloody Mary. Well, that's a spicy Bloody Mary. Anyway, happy quarantine. Don't die.